This is our Forex blog for March 15th, 2011. And like most days, we want to see which currencies are strong, which ones are weak. You can see here the yen has a weekly, monthly trend and daily trend that's up, and a lot of real-time strength. The dollar also showing a lot of strength last night and for the majority of today. However, its weekly and monthly trend started down, and the monthly trend was down the whole day. So you have better, you're better looking at finding strength in the yen because it matches the longer term weekly monthly trend, and then trade that one against one of the weakest pairs. You can see the Australian pair daily, weekly, monthly trends down. At 3 o'clock it became extremely weak. Canadian dollar also had incredible weakness last night. The weekly trend was down, the monthly trend just barely up. So you could look for CAD yen sells, weak CAD strong yen, or Australian yen sells. So as you can see on the Australian yen, we had an NR breakout right here with incredible intensity, and that trend just continued to continue. It just, kept falling and falling. And most days, when the market gets underneath the lower containment band, you can look for some counter trend trades. But this is a perfect example of, if you do look to bottom fish a currency, you can really get hurt trying to buy a currency that's extremely weak and falling, even if it's tremendously underneath the lower band. Usually you'll find the only time that I'll do that is if it's in the direction of the weekly and monthly trend. In other words, if this had a weekly and monthly trend that was going up, and this is maybe a day of intense weakness, it's more likely to find buyers down there because the weekly and monthly trend is up. In this case, the weekly and monthly trend's down, and it almost becomes suicide to try to buy one of the longest, the weakest longer-term currencies. So, using the currency meter, you had the Australian yen to look for sells, and you can see that that trend continued. You also have a weak CAD, and you can see that in real time too. It fell. Currencies that kind of come right up to the lower band, and they don't have as much strength on the way up as they had weakness. This makes a potentially good short here. You never know if a trade's going to work. Obviously, this is more of a 50-50 trade than some trades. But if you do get into one of these trades and it continues to show the weakness come in, look for the next support area and get out of the trade. Most of the time they don't go, down farther than that. This one fell another, something like 100 pips. I mean, which rarely ever happens, but can happen. So you got to be aware of that anytime you look to try to buy the lows. But notice in this case, again, the weekly trend was extremely weak. The monthly trend wasn't, was mildly up until about 10 o'clock last night, and you can see it's very likely to switch to red at any time if it does go lower. So the weekly trend had already been super weak. Daily wise, it's one of the weakest ones. Real time as well. Another one that was weak last night was in New Zealand, and so before midnight, when the New Zealand was weak and the yen was strong, it makes a decent one to look for sells too. And you can see that's exactly what happened. Extreme weakness, pulled it down, and usually below the lower containment band, the market stalls. As you can see in the New Zealand yen, extreme weakness on the way down. It kind of rallied up here and had a little bit of intensity. The weakness showed up again here, but it didn't really lower there. And then it tried to go up again with even less intensity. When you see something like that, if it does break down, that previous trend is likely to continue. And like you want to do on most trades, draw your fibs off the last move, and somewhere between the first and second fib target is usually a place to look to find the end of the move. And you can see my overnight Fibonacci area did contain the price. Now, it was extremely weak down there. It's very risky to buy one of the weakest currencies, but in this case, that weakness quickly slowed, as you can see. And if you wanted to wait for some time to pass, an hour and a half right here, and then it breaks out right here, sometimes those trends, reverse. In this case, it didn't, but it did go up enough that you could have exited that trade with with something.